sunshiny day.
Make sure it boots up.
Oh yeah. Hello, hello.
Morning.
Giving it a second for
4 people.
the lives to get going. Did you burn yourself?
A little bit.
Oh,
It's
no.
quite hot.
What's in your cup?
English breakfast. I was
Oh,
lazy.
you're so
I ran out of
classy.
time.
Classy. That's not lazy. You have to let that steep.
Yeah.
All right, we're rolling over here.
Okay, I'm not.
Still not on yours.
It doesn't matter. Whatever.
There we go.
It just never.
It's
It
happening.
never happens.
It does. Just so make sure it's muted.
Cool.
It looks so bright in here.
It does.
We wish it was bright and warm. It's bright and cold.
Bright and cold.
Ready?
Yes, ma'am. Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason.
I'm Nicole.
And today is our first reading of Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward.
Indeed, this is episode 27, and Jason's computer's not muted. So before we get started, please make sure this is the video that you are really intending to watch. We read, or we talk about each chunk of reading as if you have also already read it. So spoilers are everywhere. Allison says, hi, y'all. Hey. How are y'all doing with that Easter snap down there?
Mm-hmm.
Chile.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know when Easter is, but I'm assuming this is our Easter snap. All of our videos, anyways, back to it, are playlisted for you in our playlist section. So yeah, this is the beginning of Salvage the Bones through the 4th day.
Yeah. I didn't know we'd done 27 episodes already. That's, I mean, like one a week plus a couple, I guess.
Well,
Do we number the other ones? No?
The other ones aren't numbered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for 27 weeks.
A little longer than 27 weeks.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, for those of you who've been around for it, we appreciate it because this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's a half a year, right?
Right.
We just get 6 months, I guess. So.
Oh my gosh.
What a mercy.
Just sloshed boiling hot tea everywhere.
It's cool. Yeah, any other updates?
Any other updates? Not that I can think of.
Okay.
But you know, if you're here with us live, please include your thoughts and feelings in the live chat. And if you're watching this later, please include your thoughts and ideas in the comment box. We always love coming back and responding. It's our favorite part about the book club that we're not just reading and forgetting these books, that because everyone's reading them at different times and coming into it and responding, we get to keep reliving the books and they keep building new meaning for us. That's the best part, just things that we didn't think of, or you know, things that maybe we thought of but just didn't bother saying, or didn't get to, or whatever. Everybody else brings up these really great points and we get to explore those ideas.
Yeah.
So
some of the books. We have not revisited some.
Yeah, nobody talks about 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, even though it was really good.
Or our vampire book, yeah.
Oh, Salem's Lot.
Yeah, we've had, yeah, I mean, and that's like once the show comes out or whatever. I think there's a new show coming out.
Oh, God.
I can't remember. I get confused about what
that last show was we tried to watch the maybe 2010 show of Salem's Lot, and it was just bad.
It has the guy from Parks and Rec. He was the main character. He's Parks and Rec. It doesn't matter. Don't
remember.
Let's talk about this book, right?
Anyway, so okay, Salvage the Bones. So we picked this book because it is kind of close to home. We both are from a hurricane impacted area. We both know what it's like to fear the hurricane, to prep for the hurricane. Even though we weren't direct hits in a hurricane, there were a few that did affect us pretty intensely. And so this book is about Hurricane Katrina, and it's really more about just a family and some kids and growing up. But how this event, this, you know, most destructive hurricane that we have on record, I mean, it killed the most people from any other hurricane that we have on record in at least our part of the world. How just the impact that it has on their childhood and their lives. And so we're looking at a family who lives in Mississippi, pretty far north in Mississippi to be getting hit by a hurricane. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost as north as Shreveport.
Is it really?
Almost.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a little further south, but it when you look on the map, you're like, okay, they probably get some rain.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't think to look at a map.
And so, there's this talk. Is it okay if I go ahead and dive in?
With the show.
I'm already there. Okay. Sorry. There's this talk at the beginning when Daddy is Esh, go rinse these jars out. We need to make sure we've got water on hand. And everyone's like, we haven't had hurricanes up here like we used to when we was kids. And, it doesn't hit us that hard. It's not that big of a deal. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Those doubts that it would have been so bad there are reasonable.
Yeah.
And we've all experienced that in this part of the country.
Yeah, I remember getting a lot of new kids right after Hurricane Katrina because they couldn't go home.
Mm-hmm.
And in the line of work that I do, Katrina is still like a very real thing that we have to deal with because so many people, there was like a diaspora, right? There was so many people left New Orleans and never went back to New Orleans. And so you have people come in all the time and they'll say, well, I'm from New Orleans. But what they mean is I was there before like 2005 or whatever, right? And that they've been displaced for the last 20 years. Yeah, but there are still people.
Years.
I mean, Houston got a lot of, and there was just a huge amount of people that got moved.
Shreveport got a lot of New Orleanians.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting. There's just a lot of interesting things that come from that, right? Like, and I work in crime, so I see a lot of the bad stuff.
The bad
right?
end of it.
But there's a lot of good, and a lot of culture got spurred around and things like that. Yeah. But yeah, I remember that year very well, and I remember getting a lot of new friends, and because they had come in or whatever. But I mean, like enough about that, right? I guess. But so one thing that we thought we were doing when we picked this book was we thought we were picking something totally different, from anything we've read.
Yeah.
And I have found one tie-in, and it's that the way that Jesmyn Ward writes the characters, right? The way they speak and the way they think is just like the way that Spider speaks, right? Very staccato sentences, right?
Oh,
we had a conversation about that, right? And it's also the way that and it might be a cultural thing, not just like but like for like the South in general, because it also reminds me of the way my mom writes, right? So,
yeah.
But like it's very, it's the way I write. It's very choppy compared to some of these like longer, more elaborate.
But
things
almost
that we've
musical in a way. There's a cadence to it. It's not choppy in that like sentences cannot be formed.
No.
It's not like an educated
but
choppy.
Idea.
Yes.
Right. And but Spider spoke like that.
Yeah.
Right? And anyway, it just kind of reminded me of that. Like there was that tie-in for me that he was essentially from the South more or less, right? And so but I thought that was it.
Well, and by from the South, it's that lineage that brought people from the islands into New Orleans, and then from New Orleans into Mississippi, and all these other areas. And even Esh talks about her heritage of the New Orleans Indians. That she has some ancestry there, and that's like her hair comes from them.
But I think that manner of speaking goes beyond race. Like down there, like it's.
Oh yeah.
It has just overflowed. So anyway, I just thought it was cool.
Yeah. And that is something to keep in mind, that when we talk about culture, we aren't talking about color.
No, not at all.
We're talking about the actual culture, the environment, the community, the whole experience of living in this area. Yeah.
And culture is complicated, right? Like it's not homogenous.
Right.
Of course,
it's not one thing.
But like it's not like they're totally divorced. They can be. In the past, they certainly have been more divorced than they are now. But
So okay, one of the things that really stood out to me, especially the first couple of chapters, I had to keep reminding myself that this was 2005 and not 1900s.
Yeah.
In a way,
it
like
feels 1900s,
the kids just playing outside and not a lot of parents around, and just some of the things that they're getting into. It all felt a long time ago, and then all of a sudden they're in Walmart.
Yeah.
With folks with wraparound sunglasses or whatever. Like I was blasted back in to the present. So there was that I had a hard time wrapping my mind around. But then there was also what you just mentioned a few minutes ago, that this was 20 years ago. This was 20 years ago almost.
Doesn't that feel crazy? Yeah.
Because it feels very
It
recent.
does, yeah. It does.
And the fact that things have not gone back to
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah.
there has not been a full recovery from
Mhm.
all of this. 20, this is, how old am I?
Yeah, right.
How
You don't have to
old
answer
am
that.
I?
You don't have to answer that.
Don't.
I don't have to answer that. I don't know. 18. Yeah, no, just kidding. What a wretched age.
When I, especially like reading stuff with, they're not children, but young adults is the
Yeah.
I just cringe all the time. I'm like, you're so stupid.
Yeah.
You have so much potential. Please stop.
Yeah.
Quit being an idiot.
Yeah. I had to be like, what year was Katrina? I have to like think about it, and I was like, oh, okay, because like they don't mention they. I think there's one mention of a cell phone at some point.
Yeah.
Because the guy who has the car accident like hands him one. And I was like, oh, well, that's weird.
Uh-huh.
Oh, right, all right, okay.
And Manny has a cell phone.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, in 2005 there weren't a lot of cell phones, right?
Well, in 2005 there were plenty of cell phones, but they were not smartphones like an iPhone.
Correct. Yeah.
So if we have any younger readers, which we don't really, according to our statistics,
well, because they all lie.
Many younger readers, but or subscribers. But for any of you who are younger, there was technology aplenty, right? Like we had computers and we had cell phones, but the cell phones were Nokias or Sony Ericssons, which had internet connectivity, but no touchscreen, no like live internet looking anything. And the computers were really like, if you had one in the classroom, you had one in the classroom. And your teacher didn't use that computer really for instruction. That was for just you to do extra things because you finished your work
Play
early.
space pinball.
Right. But teachers still used like projectors, like overheads, the little dry erase markers. Yeah.
I tried to get a overhead projector for work recently. And
they don't make them anymore.
Yeah, you can't.
You gotta go to the salvage shop to get that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Peggy says the way Esh speaks is lyrical and vivid, but also simple. Oh
right.
Yeah, Peggy, Blackberries were huge in 2005. That was like if you were a professional.
I didn't have a cell phone until significantly further, like after that, right?
Yeah.
But
back to Esh's lyrical and vivid narration pattern.
Yeah.
I saw that as a complaint on one of the reviews. They were like, this book is full of similes and it's annoying.
Language is simile. Stop talking.
And meanwhile, I'm like, that's what puts you in the book. That's what makes them.
Yeah. That's
the difference between this and Childhood's End.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what's really interesting is I think like we get these like vivid metaphors basically and like different things, and we don't think. I'm gonna say verbally. Like we don't think verbally in metaphors, but we understand that way, right? And so like whenever I don't know, pick a metaphor, right? But like we don't think like, oh, that's just like a boulder going down the hill. Like we don't think that in our head. Whatever it is. Similes. We don't think that way, but we understand it that way. And so there's like some kind of like non-verbal thing in us that like has this like maybe the picture or whatever it is. And what's weird about a book is that it has to be put into words, right?
Right.
And so sometimes it can feel a little jarring, even though we do understand everything, in these ways. We don't necessarily put words to it. Right?
Yeah. But writing with figurative language provides so much more context. Because now, whenever we experience something just in real life, we have the smells, the sounds, the full experience. But when we retell that, all we have are the words.
Yeah.
And so by providing figurative language, you provide that 360-degree view of what you were experiencing rather than just a flat retelling.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Peggy actually brings up the one I was trying to think of. It's whenever she describes how she's swimming, right? How she learns how to swim. That is specifically the thing that I was thinking of, right? And we wouldn't necessarily understand in the words but we understand in the ideas. Is
Mhm.
my point, right? And of course, you have to explain it in words in a book,
Mhm.
but some people do get hung up on that, like in the descriptors or whatever. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know how else to do it.
Right. Yeah.
It would be, and we've had that. We sort of had that complaint in some of our sci-fi is that there aren't enough of
Mhm.
these sort of like it's a little colder, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't include all the
Right.
imagery.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and it's hard to find that balance of, how much to include and how much is too much. Allison says then that person
Yeah.
wouldn't like living in the South because that lyrical speech is just.
Yeah.
And when we talk as Southerners, we use a lot of figurative language, like you were knee high to a grasshopper when I last saw you, and most normal people would just say you were like 3 the last time I saw you.
Well, I think about the way I text. Right, I texted you yesterday afternoon, and afterwards I was like, I shouldn't have done that. She might have been asleep because I sent 4 texts. Right, one idea, one idea, one idea, one idea. Right, and that's exactly the way that this writing is done. Right, but I mean, because it's the same
It's
way.
telegraph.
Yeah,
Stop.
stop. but I feel like a lot of people would just put it all into one thing because why not? Right? So.
Peggy says, and I mean, Peggy just, travels the world, works with and has worked with non Southern people, and she has to define a lot. And I'd say Peggy's probably the Southernest of all of us.
Really?
Well, I do believe, yeah. I do believe she's the real Southerner here.
Well, so okay.
Yeah, what's next? No, what you got?
Well, I want, yeah. So we've talked about it a little bit, but before we go on, I want to ask you, what do you think this book's about? Because it's not about Katrina, right?
No, it's a Bill Dungerman, right? Like it's a story of a kid growing up.
Yeah. Well, but then it's like, what do you think the main? Let me rephrase that. I guess. What is the main theme? Like, what is the theme?
Identity so far.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only in the first third of the book.
Right. That's true. That's true. I think it's like I guess I didn't know anything about this book really going in, and then there's like all this like there's a lot of sex and there's a lot of like birth and death and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's about touch, right? I think it's about intimacy.
Mm.
There's so much. Whenever the book is talking about sex, it's not talking about sex. It's talking about just like contact.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of focus, I think, on birth, and obviously, right, because she's pregnant now.
Mm-hmm.
The most touched you have ever been was in the womb, right?
Hmm.
It's the most
surrounded by touch.
Yeah, it's the most touched you've ever been, and you will never have that level of touch ever again. And there's a lot of that focus on birth, and then like especially when China has her puppies, she doesn't go back to them, right? Like she doesn't like touch them like they should be, right? And Esh feels that way. She doesn't feel touched.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't feel like that intimacy or connection with anyone. When she has sex, it's because that is, I guess, like a theoretical level, the most touched you will ever be, other than in the womb, right? And that's what she's like looking for.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like when you really stop and think about it, there's so many different things about touch. There's one point where her brother touches her on the shoulder.
Oh yeah.
And she says, "I didn't realize how calloused his hands would be." What do you mean you didn't? Like you've lived in a house with him for 17 years or whatever, right? Because they don't touch each other, right? Like nobody touches, and she's like craving for that intimacy. And the tragedy of it all is that now she is pregnant. She is the one who is doing the most touching, and she doesn't want it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what I like. For me, that's what this book is really about. It's not about sex. It's not about like all this other stuff. It's about intimacy. But the other interesting thing is that touch is both intimate and it is violent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, I finished the book 10 minutes before we got on here. And so
I know I went to say something. He's like, "I'm sorry, what?"
China attacks that dog, right? That's chasing them, and Esh says it's. She says it was almost like she was giving birth again, right? Like they specifically draw a tie-in between the
that
birth
and
this violence,
yeah.
Right? And there was another part where she talks about how like whenever they would scrape themselves, Dad would just be like, walk it off, right? He wouldn't like hug him. He wouldn't do anything. Just walk it off, right? And that's what this book I think is really building up to be about is intimacy and the lack thereof.
Yeah.
Right? And I have some more notes, so I don't want to blow it all right now, but like over and over and over again. And I think the focus on birth is not about like at first one of my first notes is life and death being tied together and then whatever, but it's not about birth and it's not about sex, it's about touch and it's about intimacy.
Yeah.
So.
I also saw a lot just in the identity realm, Esh is figuring out like who she is and what she wants, and she looks at Manny and compares him to Medea and Jason,
Mm-hmm.
which is frustrating because she's a smart girl. I brought Edith Hamilton's mythology because I had not ever read it before.
Really?
I've never read it, and I didn't even
Did you
know.
skip like the 11th grade?
The freshman reading.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you skipped it.
Well, the school I went to didn't assign reading like this. So I also just had never actually known anything about the story of Jason and Medea.
Mm-hmm.
So I read it real quick. Esh, did you not read to the last page of that little Golden Fleece story? Right? Like he turns on you. So like she's comparing like the
I wonder if that'll happen here.
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear that that's going to happen here.
Yeah.
With the way he acted in the lake.
Yeah.
Yikes. So anyway, very frustrating. I mean, I understand that when you're a teenager and you've got all these hormones, there's just nothing anyone can do to overpower, you know, what you think you need. And it's not necessarily what you think you need. I mean, you do need it if you think you need it, but man.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating. But she sees it as power, right? Like it's something that she has the control to give. And that makes her feel strong. And the only other thing she feels like she's good at and strong at is running. And gosh, if someone could have just tapped into that and been like, girl, put all your energy into this, you know?
Yeah.
And she just, it's all about choices, you know, but you need older people to help mentor you and guide you to stay focused on what the harder but better choice might be.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part about being a teacher, is seeing all that potential in a kid and just watching them just make the wrong choice and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. And there's consequences. Yeah. And that's hard.
Tying that in, I guess, to my ideas about touch or whatever, you know, at one point she talks about, like, you know, her mother died, and so she has this father who's basically absentee, and they make several comments about, like, his morning beer breath, so, like, he's clearly not in the best spot himself. But she says that when her mama died, that there was no one left to hold on to, right? So again, we have this touch thing, and there's just no anchor for her, right? And she has all these boys growing up around her that don't know how to take care of her, and she doesn't know how to take care of them, and yeah, there you go. So.
Yeah. Oh, that had reminded me of something. But yeah, I have been paying attention to like the parallels that are being drawn between China and Esh and Mama.
Yeah.
Right? We have a girl in the real world who needs a real woman, who needs a real mom in there, and doesn't have it, you know, but she is watching China closely, and I think she realized that she's pregnant after seeing what China went through.
Yeah.
That's what.
Well, I think it terrifies her, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it should.
Right. So.
What was up with hidden eggs? That's the chapter that she realizes that she's pregnant, I think.
Okay.
And it's about finding the eggs that the hens hide.
Yeah. You know, there's even a part before she's pregnant where she says, if humans had eggs, I think we'd hide them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
So what is the question?
I don't know. And we also in that chapter, I don't know. There's just, I think I need to know, or I need an explanation of what she was trying to show us about Mama in that chapter. You know, Mama was good at finding the hidden eggs. She could kill the chicken easily, you know, when it was time to cook one up.
Yeah. I don't think we have to find a hidden meaning in everything here, right? Because like, I'm already doing that, right? I'm trying to find something. And I'm not convinced that, like, authors, like, always have that. I think people find it, and then they're like, yes, right? Like,
well, no, but that's the whole point of, like, why we read.
Right, no, I'm aboard.
Yeah, we find these attachments, and we make stuff up that isn't really there. Yeah. No, but I mean, like, what were we supposed to learn about Mama there? Right. And I think that life was a lot different when Mama was alive.
Yeah, sure. I'm a little more concerned that, you know, so we find out about Mama, and then Skeet, is that the one who has the puppies?
Skeeta? Yeah.
He kills the puppy, right?
That was in Sickness in the Dirt.
I am a little concerned that we are learning how to kill mercifully because Ash will have to do it.
You think so?
I'm just
do
or
you
like
think?
or like what happens her baby.
You think she's gonna have to mercy kill her baby? Well, she ain't far enough pregnant yet. I don't
No.
think we're gonna see
But
the baby.
like what happens if what happens when something goes wrong, you know, during the trauma of a hurricane or something like that, right? But like perhaps we're being set up for something we haven't seen yet.
Shucks.
But again, like it's not. It may not even be anything more than, again, like this is a situation where Ash is never touched, and her mom covers the chicken's face and all that, and then yanks the neck and bang, it's dead, right? It's again touch as violence, and so but then you have that, and then you have the puppy, which is touch as violence, but also touch as mercy, and so it's just it's more of that theme, you know. It may not be anything more than that, but yeah.
I love how much Skeeta loves his dogs.
Yeah.
I hate that they're doing dog fighting.
Yeah, me too. It's rough.
Man.
I'm a sucker for a little dog.
Just please don't. Dogs don't need to be fought.
Yeah.
It's not good. So there's my PSA on that. So,
yeah, there's a comment about the other thing is that at some point she says like I wish that he would pay attention to me like he does China, or that he touched me like he touches China, or something like that. But again, like the other female in the family is this dog, and the dog gets more attention and more love than Ash does, right? And so there's just that again, over and over and over and over and over. Right?
Let's see. Peggy says when she. Oh yeah, we saw that. Okay. Person. Sorry, trying to get caught up. It's how we cope with trauma and how we find love. And she's surrounded by males. The dog is female and is a fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely that parallel there.
Yeah. I think that ultimately, you know, China is foreshadowing for like Ash will have to become a fighter, you know, by the end of this story.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know how the story ends up, but I think we can imagine how the story's gonna end up. Like, what's gonna happen to them during the hurricane?
Yeah.
Just because we know historically what happened to lots of
people,
low-lying areas near water during the hurricane. So we know that there's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be things are gonna get bad because they're not leaving.
Yeah.
Because they can't. And so that brings up another point. You know, a lot of people that aren't from around our hurricane area ask, like, why don't people just leave when the hurricane comes? Not leaving is a privilege.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that people with means are able to do. You know, where do you go? And with what money do you pay to get there? You know, not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing. I saw a note that Jesmyn Ward wrote this after being dissatisfied with how Katrina fell from people's memories. And I thought about that a lot, you know, so I appreciate that she wrote a book so that we could have this little nugget of something in the context of our minds to hold on to. You know, anytime you read something, you hang on to a piece of it forever, and it's experience. It's vicarious experience, right? And it makes you more empathetic and understanding, and you learn something.
Yeah.
But it's also understandable that Katrina fell from people's memories. It affected a very small, you know, section of the world. And if you didn't directly experience that, why would you hang on to that memory? You know, you're sad for the people. You see it on the news. It's terrible, and you send your $30 to the Red Cross.
Well, I mean, like, so I mean, if it was 20 years ago, you need to be like at least 30 to remember in any significant way, you know, what was going on. You know,
God, I can't. Every time you say
it's not really 20 years ago, right?
It was
it's not really,
17.
Whatever. It's 20.
Yeah.
But so I mean, there's a colossal chunk of the population. I mean, it's like 9/11, right?
Right. Yeah.
Just people have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But it shaped so much of, 9/11 shaped so much of U.S. culture and history and like policy decision at the time. And Katrina did the same here. So.
Yeah. It's interesting. In the chapter Worth Stealing, this is Skeeta's plan to go steal the dewormer from the farm that's across the land, or across their pasture or whatever. And Junior ends up on this little escapade with them, the littlest kid, and they're trying to protect Junior. They're trying to keep him from like seeing dogs being birthed out and and stuff like that. And Skeeta warns Junior, you see the people in that house, if you read Hansel and Gretel, they will fatten you up and eat you. And I always enjoy, or not enjoy, I appreciate when authors include this perspective of, well, we all know you're scared when you come through this neighborhood, but
Right.
they're scared when they go into yours too.
Right.
And if you
Yeah.
don't mind, can I read this?
Sure.
It's
I
short.
don't know what it is.
Okay, so one of my favorite novellas is The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. I super recommend it. It'll take you just an hour to read through the whole thing. It's a series of vignettes. And one of the vignettes is called Those Who Don't, and it's one of my favorite ones. So, House on Mango Street is just about like a Hispanic family growing up and just, the shenanigans they get into as kids and trying to survive. So, it says, those who don't know any better come into our neighborhood scared. They think we're dangerous. They think we'll attack them with shining eyes. They are stupid people who are lost and got here by mistake. But we aren't afraid. We know the guy with the crooked eye is Dave the baby's brother. And the tall one next to him in the straw brim, that's Rose's Eddie V. And the big one that looks like a dumb grown man, he's Fat Boy, though he's not fat anymore, nor a boy. All brown, all around, we are safe. But watch us drive into a neighborhood of another color, and our knees go shakety shake, and our car windows get rolled up tight, and our eyes look straight. Yeah, that's how it goes and goes.
Yeah.
I love that. But that's what, this chapter reminded me of that, It's always scary to touch down in someone else's territory or whatever,
A week or two ago, we had a conversation about like the other, right? And
Yeah.
It's just,
the other.
Yeah, it's not, and that's a shame, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a shame, but also totally understandable.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know, these degrees of separation suck. I mean, and that's just all there is to it. It sucks. Let's see. Katrina made a hunk of people family with shared memories of misery. Yeah. That's very true. And all catastrophes make family out of strangers,
Yeah, for sure.
It builds a common experience.
I'm thinking, I don't know why I'm thinking now, but about the car accident scene, because that's like a weird scene, right? Why is it there?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
And I again think what it's there for is to show us who's driving the car. Was it Skeeter, or was it the other brother? Who which of the boys was driving the car?
To go to the store?
Yeah.
Maybe Big Henry? Yeah, Big Henry, because Big Henry has the car.
Okay. So, but Big Henry, like, he doesn't even get out of the car. He doesn't want to help anybody. He wants to leave, right?
No, Big Henry's the one.
Oh, no, he does get out. Yeah. But we know the other one, right? It's Skeeter who wants to leave.
Skeeter wants to get back to taking care of his dogs, and it starts. Shoot, there's another guy, and I can't remember his name right now.
It's Manny or Rico or one of them, but.
It's not Manny, but yeah.
But the point is, I think that scene is there because we have this one brother who wants to go and help.
Yeah.
And he goes and helps somebody else that's not Ash, right? And then you have these other brothers who don't even get out, and they just want to go home and mind their own business, and they don't want to help any. But again, it's about touch, right? Like it's not. Right. It's about like not wanting to help, and that's what that scene's really there to be about.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's never going to come back up.
But it was character building for Big Henry, right? He was not afraid to just go and take care of what needed to be done.
Right.
Grabbed the guy's phone for him and told him where he was. Kind of kept an eye out on where the woman was.
Right.
Kept the guys in the car, and just to be clear, Big Henry is not a sibling.
Okay.
He's a friend.
Gotcha.
But it kind of kept an eye on the people in the car. Also, Big Henry is the calm presence that's kind of got eyes everywhere. He seems to be so far the voice of reason.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's funny that every small town has a dead man's curve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peggy said, Skeeta has no compassion or mercy for humans. He ignores people in the grocery store. He doesn't want to help the car accident people. And he seems to have disdain for the people in the house.
Yeah. Well, and it's either him or it's Ash who's like, why didn't that man go and help his girl, right?
Right.
Why didn't he go help her? But they're not helping their girl, right? Like they're not.
Yeah.
But and so there's this again, like Ash wants that man to go help the woman because Ash wants to be helped. And Skeeter he just wants the man to go away, but he wouldn't do that either. He wouldn't go help somebody. And so it's just that sort of, it's just this like quietly dysfunctional family. they're not fighting each other. There's nothing going on, but there's no. Um, they're just like so loosely connected.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it that way in terms of their dysfunction with each other. Because I do see that Skeeta does have a connection with Esh in a way that he'll ask her for help when he needs help. But you're right, he isn't ever really looking out for her. The fact that he touches her on her shoulder and that's the first time she's ever felt his calloused hands, that's kind of weird. Not weird, but showing that distance that's between the siblings.
So
Randall is a sibling, and who even is Randall?
Is he a sibling?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I think so. He's the oldest.
Yeah, all the names got me a little confused. I just went. They came and went so fast.
Because you waited to the last second to read.
Also that. One of my favorite lines in the book was she writes, "Even the breeze doesn't touch us down here."
Oh dang! You really weren't paying attention to that.
I may be late to the game, but I got something good to say.
Well, so now we know that that's kind of a motif to watch out for.
Yeah, be watching for touch, as violence and as intimacy.
Yeah, it's a two-edged sword. That one. Let's see, what else I got. I don't know. Just oh yeah. So about Big Henry, I had kind of made a note. These kids are still very much kids, but also forced to be adults in that they don't have much guidance towards what's right and wrong, but they are the ones who went to the store to go get food for the dog, and in a normal situation, what I'm calling normal, like what we would know, the parents would go and do that.
Yeah.
The kid wouldn't go and do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess.
But I don't know, but when you're a teenager also, I mean, you just think you're grown,
abnormal,
and so you just go and do your own things. You have a friend with a car, you get up and go.
Yeah, well, but I don't find it all that abnormal, especially like whenever you have a single parent who's like not necessarily around.
Yeah.
I think in my family, my parents would have gone out, but I think I've been to the store with people to get groceries, right?
Yeah,
like because for their family.
That's
right?
true.
So.
That's true.
Peggy says, "Can we talk about the hilarity of the dog allergy moment?" And that is hilarious. That was a good point.
Oh my gosh! Like
these white people have a dog
grass.
that's allergic to grass, and like, boy, ain't that true?
Yeah.
Ain't that true? That's pretty good.
We have a dog with a torn ACL. Did you know?
I don't want to talk about it.
Did you know?
We'll have to bring our dogs on the show one
day. Well, they've made appearances.
Really?
Mm-hmm. In the older episodes, we'd have like a picture or something at the end.
Oh, we did.
And one was of Atlas, and then in one of our like announcement videos, I was holding Lil in it. So if you've watched all the episodes and all the things, then you've seen them. That's all I have right now. Are you enjoying the book?
I think I am. So when before I realized this motif that I'm stuck on now, I don't think I was. Because I was like, oh, this is
what am I reading? Yeah, weird.
Nobody at dinner told me about the sex whenever I started. I feel like I should have been warned, because now I've like put 5 people on YouTube onto this book, and I didn't know. But like, it's not lurid, right? Like, it's not an issue. It's not dirty. It's none of that. It's
just uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable, and
but it's human nature.
but like, it shouldn't be. Right?
Yeah.
And like, look, they pay me 50% of the time to talk about sex with people, so like, talking about it doesn't bother me. It was more about like putting that onto somebody without knowing to warn them, right? That was my problem. But I really like it, and I think that there's all these interesting things, and like, I wonder where it's going, right? Because I kind of have this feeling that we will get to I mean, like, I assume Katrina happens. Like, I honestly,
according to the chapter titles, yes.
Okay, but like, I kind of see that as like, it's going to be the ultimate touch as violence, right? And will there be a counterpoint to that? Is kind of what I'm interested in. There was one more point I had written down, and it was when she was talking about her mom birthing all the children. It said that she cleaned us like kittens, right? So again, we have the touch, right? As the cleaning, and it's something that specifically China did not do. When she had her puppies, she did not clean them. I think it's really good, and the just like the levels and like weird little hidden ways that these things can be you know, that I think all these things are tying together to tell a story that is not a story, right? That it is not simply what this reminds me a lot of like West with Giraffes, where we have this story about traveling with giraffes, but really what we have is this story of, you know, sort of becoming somebody else, you know, and I enjoy that because because often in sci-fi you get the story that is the story, right? And so we've done that recently, like it is this, you know? But what the events are not what this is about, you know, it's about something else. So I enjoy it.
And I will give a warning to everyone that we might not get a very good resolution in the end.
Good. I don't like good resolutions.
Because if you look at the chapter titles, the book ends right after the storm dies down. And we know that's when that would not be the end of anyone's story.
Right, that's when it starts getting bad.
Right. So we're not going to see pieces put back together necessarily.
Right.
So a little warning for everyone there. Anyone else have anything? Let us know.
I hope y'all are enjoying it, and definitely, I know we have some viewers who will leave us their notes later on, and anybody else, even after the live chat is done, you're welcome to put your notes in the comments.
Please
we love
do.
seeing those.
Yeah.
And especially something like this because, you know, I mean, this is very alien for me. It's like as far as books go, reading a book like about a woman by a woman author is not something like it's not something I've never done, but it's something that is like incredibly uncommon, probably, just because of the genres I read, and that's why I picked it. That's why I wanted to read this thing. And so I hope that it takes people a little bit out of their comfort zone or out of something that they would normally read, because that's the point, you know. And I think that I'm seeing things in this book that I bet you anything we go back to something else, and I'm going to tie it into this.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We're going to read some weird sci-fi and be like, remember that time in Salvage the Bones?
So far, we have made comparisons between everything that we've read, except Deception Point, but that's still pretty recent.
That's a tough one. So, yeah.
But because this kind of book deals with fundamental life things, right? I mean, so it's going to stick in our heads as a point of reference.
Right.
Because it's real. It's real. Definitely not a romance book, though. No.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We'll get there some point. We are definitely talking about adding a romance to the list.
Yes. Still working with my list curator on finding some to pick from. If you have any recommendations, please include this in the comments below or in the chat if you're in here now. We really do add them to our list.
And we're starting, our list is running low, so we need more.
Yeah.
Next week we'll be on here 10 o'clock again. We're going to be doing days 5 through.
Hang on, I have it written down. Through the 8th day.
5 through the 8th.
So 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 days.
4 days. That's fine.
4 days.
Yep. We're gonna be. We should be able to do it just fine. We won't be doing it from our regular couch. We'll be doing it from a different couch, but we'll have a lot of fun, and we hope to see you guys there. If you have any friends who are into reading, let them know about our channel. We're almost at 300 people, which is kind of fun.
Wild.
Well, what's fun about it is we still have like the 5 or 6 people who watch with us every morning and like actually talk to us, right? So we have an audience of 5 or 6, but we have like 300 people that are theoretically checking it out, which is kind of cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Well, I just want to talk about books with people. You know what I mean? So, anything else?
That's all I got.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see you next week.
Happy reading.
Adios.
Bye. Where are you
How
clicking?
I do this?
Where are you clicking?
Right there.